Laudetur Jesus Christus. Vatican and World News.
Here in the headlines this Sunday, February 28th, Pope Francis prays for hundreds of schoolgirls abducted in Nigeria and for people suffering from rare diseases. Mexico calls on the United States to put in place a system that promotes legal, beneficial migration. And excitement is growing in Iraq as Pope Francis prepares for his apostolic journey to the Middle Eastern nation later this week. In the Vatican, I'm Devin Watkins. Pope Francis today joined his voice to the bishops of Nigeria to pray for 317 schoolgirls who were abducted in the northwestern part of the country on Friday. As Godfrey Gampamba reports, the kidnapping comes hot on the heels of a similar incident a week earlier.
Speaking at the Angelus prayer on Sunday, Pope Francis forcefully condemned the vile kidnapping of 317 girls in Nigeria's Zamfara state. He invited everyone to pray for them so that they might return home soon.
Sono vicino alle loro famiglie e a loro stesse.
I am near to their families and to them, said the Pope.
Preghiamo la Madonna perché le custodisca.
Let us pray that Our Lady might keep them safe. The incident took place on Friday morning in the town of Jangebe. Unidentified gunmen entered a secondary school around midnight, shooting sporadically. The state's information commissioner said they carried the girls off in vehicles and on foot. Friday's attack follows on the heels of a similar kidnapping a week earlier. One student was killed and 42 people were taken away from a boarding school in the state of Niger on February 17th. They were released on Saturday. The Catholic bishops of Nigeria have decried the deteriorating situation in the country. They released a press statement after the first kidnapping, but before this most recent attack. The bishops wrote that the nation is really on the brink of a looming collapse, from which we must do all we can in order to pull back before the worst overcomes the nation. They said insecurity and corruption have put into question the very survival of the nation. The bishops also called on the government to step up to the challenge of governing seriously, especially as armed groups threaten to take the law into their own hands. And they list a host of crises afflicting Nigerians, including assassinations, COVID-19, kidnappings, murders, banditry, and armed robberies. We are very highly disturbed about the present state of instability in the land, said Nigeria's bishops. This must not be allowed to continue to fester and degenerate. My name is Kanyanta Godfrey Kampamba.
A quick update. Local news outlets are reporting that the 300 schoolgirls have been released, but the reports have not yet been confirmed. As the world marks the 16th World Rare Diseases Day on Sunday, Pope Francis offered prayers for the many people, especially children, afflicted by a rare disease. Speaking after the Angelus prayer, the Pope also thanked medical researchers for their work to diagnose and discover treatments for rare diseases. He said solidarity networks are also important for helping people out of loneliness and as places where experiences and advice can be shared. He urged everyone to be near to sick children who are suffering, praying for them and helping them feel the caress of God's love and tenderness. Also marking the World Rare Diseases Day, Cardinal Peter Turkson released a message urging policymakers to guarantee the right to health care for all. Sister Bernadette Reese has the story.
As the world marks the 16th World Rare Diseases Day on Sunday, the prefect of the Dicastery for Promoting Integral Human Development issues a message calling for the protection of society's most vulnerable members. Cardinal Peter Turkson notes that over 6,000 diseases are considered rare. 72% of those are hereditary, while 70% start in childhood. He said people with rare diseases are among the most vulnerable groups in society. They suffer from maladies which often have no cure and are usually lifelong and degenerative. The Cardinal laments that many of these diseases are often neglected by medical science and are therefore difficult to diagnose and treat. They and their families thus lack access to proper educational, economic, and social care. All this prevents them from integrating into society, participating actively in family, work, and social life, which is essential for the development of their personality, thus generating discrimination and loneliness. Cardinal Turkson says the COVID-19 pandemic has worsened many of these difficulties, making treatment and proper care even more difficult to procure. So the Cardinal urges policymakers and institutions to guarantee the right to health for all people, especially those suffering from rare diseases. He says that this can be done by promoting international cooperation, knowledge sharing, and more sustainable and resilient health systems which do not forget the needs of the most vulnerable and leave no one behind. The Cardinal Prefect goes on to note that a culture of care can only result from the promotion of the dignity of every human person, solidarity with the poor and the defenseless, the common good, and the protection of creation. He says a more humane society can be built by ensuring inclusive access to health care for people with rare diseases. Finally, Cardinal Turkson encourages Christians to take this time of Lent to cultivate hope and to love those who are suffering, abandoned, and distressed. I'm Sister Bernadette Reese.
Ahead of the traditional Marian prayer of the Angelus, Pope Francis spoke about the Transfiguration. He began by considering what Jesus told his disciples before taking them up the mountain. Jesus had just revealed that he would be condemned to death, but would rise again.
L'immagine di un Messia forte, trionfante.
The image of a strong and triumphant Messiah is put into crisis, he said. Their dreams are shattered and they are beset by anguish at the thought that the teacher should be killed. With these concerns in their hearts, the disciples followed Jesus up the mountain where he is transfigured before them. Pope Francis said Jesus thus reminded them that he would overcome death. The Pope went on to reflect on Peter's words, "Rabbi, it is good that we are here." He said the apostles' expression of appreciation is a reminder that the Lord never lets darkness have the final word. When we face seemingly endless trials, said the Pope, we need another point of view, which he called a light which illuminates in depth the mystery of life and helps us to move beyond our frame of mind and the criteria of this world.
Anche noi siamo chiamati a salire sul monte.
We too, he stressed, are called to climb the mountain with Jesus to have every fragment of our lives illuminated by his victory at Easter. Yet, warned Pope Francis, we must not let our joy at the Transfiguration become spiritual laziness. We cannot remain on the mountain and enjoy the beauty of this encounter alone, he noted. Jesus himself brings us back to the valley among our brothers and sisters and into daily life. Spiritual laziness, said the Pope, pushes us to rest in the satisfaction of our own well-being while ignoring the struggles faced by others.
Salire sul monte non è dimenticare la realtà.
Going up the mountain does not mean forgetting reality, he said. Praying never means avoiding the toils of life. Pope Francis concluded his catechesis urging Christians to carry Jesus' light throughout the world. The mission of every Christian, he said, is to ignite little lights in people's hearts, being little lamps of the gospel that bear a bit of love and hope.
Preghiamo Maria Santissima perché ci aiuti.
And the Pope asked the Blessed Virgin Mary to accompany us to welcome the light of Christ, to care for it, and to share him with our brothers and sisters. In other news, police in Myanmar fired live rounds at protesters across the country on Sunday, marking the bloodiest day yet after weeks of demonstrations. At least 18 peaceful protesters were killed as they marched against the military coup, according to the UN's Human Rights Office. Witnesses say dozens of people were arrested by police, with perhaps 30 people wounded. Myanmar has seen widespread unrest after the army seized power on February 1st. The leaders of Mexico and the United States are seeking to kick off a new era in bilateral relations, with several high-profile meetings being held around the weekend to discuss topics related to migration. James Blears has the details.
Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, better known by his nickname of AMLO, is going to have a virtual meeting with new U.S. President Joe Biden on Monday. And during their discussions, he says he'll broach the topic of migrant workers. AMLO says that in his own estimation, the U.S. needs up to 800,000 migrant workers annually. Traditionally, Mexican and Latino workers are a vital and necessary part of the U.S. agricultural, service and construction industries. The money they send back home, mostly via wire transfers, known as remittances, adds up to billions of dollars and as such is a vital lifeline for the Mexican economy. AMLO also says that regularizing their migratory status and flow is absolutely necessary in order to formalize and guarantee their rights so as to avoid exploitation. A similar system has been functioning effectively and efficiently with Canada for many years. The two neighboring presidents will be discussing migration immigration, security via combating drug cartels who themselves illegally traffic workers and arms smuggling. Another major consideration involves maintaining and increasing trade, which secures thousands of well-paying jobs on both sides of their shared border. AMLO took his time officially recognizing and congratulating Joe Biden following his presidential election victory, so there are fences which need political mending rather than constructing. For Vatican Radio, James Beers reporting.
And finally, Pope Francis sets off this Friday for the first ever papal visit to Iraq. His apostolic journey is causing great excitement in the Middle Eastern nation, which boasts the reputation of being the birthplace of the patriarch Abraham. Christians, Jews, and Muslims all trace their roots back to Abraham, and the Pope's visit is providing an opportunity to renew interreligious ties in long-suffering Iraq. To get a feel for the excitement, I spoke to Hassan Amir Abdullah, a project officer with Catholic Relief Services, the American arm of Caritas. Himself a Muslim, Mr. Amir says Pope Francis's visit will remind Iraqis of their common heritage after decades of conflict.
The Pope's visit will emphasize the message of human fraternity, that we are all brothers and we can unite to support each other. Also in Islam, we have a saying that people for people, regardless of their religion. And the Pope visit will underline this message for all of the Iraqi communities. Also, the visit will represent the solidarity of the international community and religious institution support with the people of Iraq. All Iraqis also, it's a good message that will be shared, that all Iraqis will come together to rebuild their community and their country in general, and also remind us of the message that all religions are advocating for the peace and solidarity, for rebuilding trust. I would also like to highlight that the visit is going to be a historical visit for the first time in the Iraqi history, that we have this visit from the Pope Francis that will also open the international community eyes on the Iraqi communities in general, and to know the context very well in Iraq. Iraq is the birthplace of Ibrahim, the spiritual father of many religions. So as an Iraqi, we would like to say that he's very welcome to come to Iraq, and all of the communities here in Iraq, and I'm speaking also of what I have also seen and heard from the people here in Iraq. They're very looking forward to this visit that will also be a message for hope and solidarity and peace for the Iraqi community that will also have a great and positive impact on our future, and especially the youth and the upcoming generation.
How are relations between Christians and Muslims currently, especially given the conflicts of the past couple decades?
The Christians and the Muslims are now rebuilding trust between them as a result of the conflict and the use of displacement. The operation itself is still ongoing. But to be honest, we need to keep it working and fostering this relationship building here in Iraq.
Thanks there to Hassan Amir Abdullah, Iraq Project Officer at Catholic Relief Services. That brings us to the end of this edition of Vatican and World News. For more on these and other stories, go to our web portal at www.vaticannews.va. There you can also find all our broadcasts in podcast form. And don't forget to catch the latest updates on our Facebook page and Twitter feed. In the Vatican, I'm Devin Watkins.